Hello, and welcome to another edition of Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along. It's episode 380. We're back after our Thanksgiving break. My name is Neil Parekh. I am the executive producer of the show. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do to let people know about the show. A quick shout out to everyone watching on replay. Thank you so much for coming back and catching the show at a time that works for you. We are excited about the show again, and Sree is back in the big chair. He'll be hosting today. We'll be covering, in addition to the week's news, we have a special section from the New York Times. It's their holiday cookie special. So we're looking forward to sharing that with you. You can download that from our website, digimentors.group/NYT readalong. You can find today's show and download the PDF. We'll also be talking about some of the hot topics, the redistricting fight, the airstrikes and potential war crimes around that, and of course, immigration and so much more. So please let us know where you're watching from and give us a quick hello. We will certainly be able to put it on the screen when you do that. Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along is produced by Digimentors in partnership with Scroll and Scroll Global, one of India's most important independent websites. And now let's bring on our host, Sree Sreenivasan. Sree, good to see you.
Great to see you, Neil. Thank you for holding down the fort as always. I was in India for 3 weeks, and India and Singapore, and you can imagine what a wonderful experience it is to go back to your home country like I got to go. It was under mixed circumstances. We were going for my mother-in-law's first anniversary rituals, but we also got to spend time with both grandfathers, mine and my wife Rupa's dads. And we went to several major pilgrimage spots in southern India and Kerala, especially Guruvayur and Sabrimala, which some of our audience may recognize as major pilgrimage spots in southern India. And I also did a lot of travel by air, Neil, and you may have heard in the news about kind of a huge crisis in Indian aviation as a major airline. There are only 2 major airlines left in India. Had to ground and cancel hundreds of flights. But I just missed that by a day or so. It's called Indigo Airlines, and they do really well. But now they're having a major crisis. It's about, as with almost everything with airlines, it's about money and about pilot and staff safety and how much rest they should get. These are the things they were arguing about. I'd also make a pitch for a new kind of train that's available in India called the Vande Bharat, which is much faster and is almost like a business class airline in terms of the facilities, and certainly as good, or if not better, than the Acela trains that Amtrak runs here. And that's now available in many parts of India. So overall, as I do when I go to India, I overeat and then worry about that once I'm back here in the U.S. It's a beautiful day here in New York, but very cold. And I came back to that, of course. I also came back to the coldest day in New York. One other travel thing that I heard. So I had gone to India just with this, for the planes, it gets cold wherever you are. And I land in Newark Airport, and it's freezing on the coldest day of the year. I planned so badly. Turns out in Norway and other Scandinavian countries, they have something they call a jacket hotel. At the airport, you go in and at no charge, you leave your heavy Scandinavian jackets behind.
Really?
And they keep it for you so that if you're going to some warmer place, every place is warmer than Scandinavia, and then you just get the jacket and on your way out the airport. So I think that's a brilliant idea. Would not work here for a variety of reasons, but that's called kind of adjusting to your local environment.
You see that all the time, when you travel, especially in the January time period. You see people coming back from Hawaii in shorts and flip flops, and they're coming. I'm in DC, obviously, but they come out, and it's like 30 degrees out here, and it's a huge shock. And it certainly is a challenge for packing too, if you're traveling different places.
Exactly. So I'm now a fan of the Jacket Hotels, which I just heard about. John Lee says, "Good morning, all from New York City. Welcome." Doug Levy is watching from San Francisco at 5:30 in the morning. Thank you very much. Jonathan says, "Good morning. Greetings from the East Village, as well as quite a round of architectural news." He's very much interested in that. Neil, I see you also have a little throat issues going on.
Yes.
Ken says, "Good morning from 6 inches of snow in Iowa." So we are doing
I,
better than that. Look at the East River and the UN, sort of. You can see the UN over there. That's the East River. It's beautiful here
I
in.
want to give Ken a quick shout out. He shared that they had 3 to 6 inches of snow overnight. Now remember, it's 7:30 local time for him, but he said he was going to get up early and shovel the snow in time to make it to the read along. So Ken, thank you so much for doing that. It means a lot.
So we have to see who gets the tougher guy prize. Doug doesn't have to do any snow, but it's 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So
But Doug has kind of opted out of that because he claims to be a long time, not old, long time radio guy, and this is just what he does. So it's not even a big deal for him. I don't know
all
if
right,
he gets credit for that anymore.
look who's watching. Chris Gorman, Sree and Neil, tuning in from New York. New York. Chris lives a few dozen blocks up north, and he helps run one of the great museums in New York, the Museum of the City of New York. And we did a live show just before the pandemic in January of 2020 in his museum. Sujana
With
Chandrasekhar dropped in.
Stephen, sorry, with Stephen Kaplan as our guest. That was incredible.
Sujana Chandrasekhar, I've been looking into the Vande Bharat for Rajasthan. That's right. So now people can see the spelling. If you're looking for an improved train service in India, that's definitely worth getting that. And Doug says, "This was supposed to be my ski week. There's no snow in our mountains this week." That's really kind of sad to hear that. Diane's watching from frigid part of South Jersey. And as Chris says, a few blocks away. Thank you. Folks, we have a lot of news to get through. And reminder, we're in this new format that we're using. We are cut back to an hour-long show. We are also focusing on the paper as much as possible. We're having fewer guests. Doesn't mean we'll never have guests. And guest suggestions always welcome. But we're focusing on the papers, and we're also now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So a few hours after this, we will be available on there. We also have some of our greatest hits on there that we have put in from the past. So you'll see that. And also, thanks to StreamYard, the tool we're using, the way our show shows up on Instagram Live is very different from what it used to be. So it's even a better experience than it used to be on YouTube Shorts as well as Instagram Live. So check all of those out, and please tag your friends, tell them to join us. We're discussing the news. We're fighting misinformation and disinformation about all kinds of topics. So I think we are ready to go. Paula Kiger is watching, and our sponsors are, as we said, Muckrack and the Graphic History Company. We're very grateful to them. And we're also very proud of our work at Digimentors, which produces shows like this, as well as podcasts, as well as opportunities to do strategic comms, training and workshops, events and programs, AI workshops, policy, strategy, and scenario planning. And just this week, we've been talking to some major organizations about helping them figure out everything that's going on in the AI space. And Paula's watching from Tallahassee, longtime producer of the show. And look who it is.
From Tampa, not from New York. Mom goes to Florida for the winter. So, Mom, thank you for joining us from Tampa this morning. And it's comfortable. She was complaining actually about the cold as well, Sree. I think it was 65 degrees there, and I said, no, you can't complain if it's 65 degrees. I'm not gonna accept that.
I totally understand. All right, let's see what's in the paper, and Neil and I will banter about the press, about what's in the news, but also please jump in with your thoughts and comments. We would love to hear them throughout the show. All right, this is Sunday, December 7th, and December 7th is the date that will live in infamy, as we know, when Pearl Harbor was attacked. And so, isn't that interesting that we're seeing a naval story here, Neil, about the second strike not key issue in boat shots, invoking rules of war for criminal question? This is about Pete Hegseth and the Trump administration seeing survivors on those boats and then knocking them out and killing them for, by the way, crimes, if they're even if they were proven, are not punishable by death in the United States. So we're killing people overseas for things that have not been proven. We don't even know their names or anything. No cases have been made, and we are executing them for things that are not capital punishment crimes in the U.S. And this is all being done in our name as part of the crazy things that this administration is doing. And I know there are some Republicans putting pressure for the first time, and that's what we need to see. Inside Biden's losing bets on immigration, not heeding warnings, and giving Trump an opening. This is about the story that a lot of people have asked over the last 2 years. Why did the Biden administration let there be this open borders policy, or what was portrayed as open borders policy? It really wasn't, but just allowed so many more people to come here than they would have, and they got hammered on it by Trump and others. Before we go to the rest of the front page, let's just look at what's in the rest of the paper. The Sunday Style section is the 50 best clothing stores in America, in a tip of the hat to places where the customer experience is as important as the fashion finds. Let's see if I know some of these. I've not heard of Plain Goods or Lou Talbert's Ranch Outfitters, Montbell. Let me know if you've heard of any of these. Judith, Joan Shep, Verdolina. These are all new to me. I don't know these names. Meridian Boutique. Wow. Okay. And just like that, he's gone. The designer Dario Vitale will be leaving the brand Versace after one hit collection. The Sunday business cover is Data Center Coming Soon, a mysterious project in New Mexico. Shows just how eager officials are for AI infrastructure, even if they don't quite know the terms. That's interesting because a lot of places are fighting back these data centers and fighting against these data centers. All right. The Sunday opinion cover is, this is the story of how the Democrats blew it on Gaza. So, Neil, this seems like it's a day of reckonings, or looking back and trying to understand what happened with immigration and with Gaza. Two very important topics that lost Kamala Harris the election.
Yeah.
The third one I put in that same category would be the economy. And so I'm very curious what they said. And it's written by Ben Rhodes, who was a national security advisor under Obama, I believe. He was in the apparatus. I'm not sure. I don't remember his exact title. Let's see who else is watching with us. Mary C. Curtis. Hi, Mary. Always great to have you. She is watching from Charlotte, North Carolina. Wonderful, wonderful political columnist and observer of the elections. Last year, around this time, we were covering the elections and looking at the aftermath of the elections. And Naomi Service is watching from greetings and salutations from a cold but sunny Rhode Island. Good to see you guys. Thank you. And Pradnya is watching not too far from Neil in what's called the DMV. That's a word I only heard first on this show because we had so many friends from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, DMV. And Mary says, on the boat strikes, my husband, an Army veteran, says one of the first things the military emphasizes that you cannot obey an illegal order, and it makes clear what that means. So people are unfortunately obeying some of these orders, and we know that Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona was one of multiple senators who wrote open letters to the military saying, do not follow illegal orders, and now they're targeting him. He's an astronaut, he's a veteran, he's fought and bled for this country. His wife was shot at by a gunman. So he is, more patriotic in my mind than almost everyone who's targeting him. But that's the country we live in now. And Doug says, if you're a misinformation fighter from another country, you're no longer eligible for a visa to enter the USA.
Fact checkers.
You want to tell us about that, Neil? I missed that.
If you're employed, if you have experience with fact checking,
in wherever you live, that is a mark against you in terms of the visa application. You will not get a visa for the U.S.
Wow. I did not know that. Thank you.
The other thing I was going to mention, you mentioned Mark Kelly. It's really more a video that he recorded with several colleagues that encouraged people in the military not to obey illegal orders. And he was the only one who was with a pure military background. There were people from the CIA and other law enforcement backgrounds. And the crazy thing is that they were talking about bringing him back into service so they could court-martial him. That's where the controversy really blew up.
Well, thanks for that clarification, and just awful stuff on what's happening with the fact checkers. I also said to friends and family in India when they asked me about what's going on in America, I told them that among the things they're now going to look for and screen for on visa applications, obesity, diabetes, other heart disease. If you have any of those, you would likely not get a visa. And so they're really targeting foreigners. What they do is they don't want foreigners here. But can you imagine if Americans get targeted like that by European countries? Very few Americans will be able to travel overseas.
But let's clarify, Sree. I'm assuming, and especially with the change in attitude around South Africa, if you're an Afrikaner, a white South African who the Trump administration feels is being oppressed after 100 years of apartheid, I'm sure none of that applies. Yeah. So let's be clear about what we're talking about. It's not foreigners. It's people who are brown. It's people who are from the global South. It's anyone the Trump administration doesn't like.
Yep.
Not who they do like.
That is true, and very sad. All right, let's keep reading here. The New York Times Style magazine. It's been 10 years of the show, Neil, and we've never read through this properly. I think they do it once a quarter. It's very ambitious, very smart.
I think it's monthly.
Is it monthly? Wow,
yeah.
That's even more amazing. And we've never had a time to do anything with it, which is too bad. We've even read the New York Times magazine at the office of Jake Silverstein, the editor-in-chief, but we've not even had a chance to look at this. But I want to say, I've not read this, but I love the fact that they call Gen X the greatest generation, ? And as a Gen X, proud member of the Gen X, which gets completely ignored between the boomers, the millennials, the Gen Zs, we're forgotten. And I'm just glad that someone's saying we might be the greatest generation. And this is about how Gen X changed culture forever. And you can see many of the things here were invented or created for Gen X. So there's Michael Jackson. So the Gen X, to remind everyone, is 1965 to 1980, roughly that few years here or there. There's the Swanson TV dinner. I don't know if your parents ever had that. There's Tube Socks.
I did, not my parents.
Tube Socks. What else do you see here? That is Clearasil was our generation, Neil. Cassette tape. I guess these are, what are these, ding dongs? I've forgotten, or what are these called?
Ho-hos, maybe?
Ho-hos, yeah. And there's Bert, and there's the wall phone, I guess.
So
before, and I guess the key is for the latchkey kids.
That was me. I was a latchkey kid.
Tell people what a latchkey kid is. It's not a term we use in other countries.
It was, growing up, my parents were working, and I had a key to the house, and I would let myself in and entertain myself for a couple hours before they came home. That's what a whole generation grew up like that.
And you and other parents of that generation grown up into being very careful, very persistent, very present parents. Yeah. I don't call them helicopter parents. I say blanket parents. We're just blanketing the kids with attention. How do you feel about that?
Well, we certainly have a concern about being helicopter parents, and I'd like to think that we're not. But our circumstances are different now. We're home when Emily comes home from school, so we can actually block off time to spend with her in the first 20 minutes or so, just to kind of chat a little bit.
Whereas I remember, just because of circumstances, I used to come home and then it'd be about 2 hours. I was a big fan of Little House on the Prairie. My parents used to come home about 3/4 into the show at the 5:45. But before we leave the T Magazine Sree, I do want to point out, I'm going to go a different layout here to point out that my cover is very different. It's showing some of the iconic people, and we can go full screen as well, iconic people from Gen X. And so you could probably, it's hard for me to kind of see it backwards. You can see some of the faces that you'd recognize. I assume a lot of folks from The Simpsons, but I think there are some others in there as well.
Is it people from The Simpsons or people rendered as The Simpsons?
Rendered as well, some look like they're Simpsons characters, but some are rendered as Simpsons, right? That's Ferris Bueller in there. Certainly, not sure about some of the others. But the headline is.
I'm trying to find your cover inside here, and
I couldn't
there's
find
some kind of write-up, but
I couldn't find a write-up. I was trying to look quickly while you were doing the show, doing your cover, but it's it says how Gen X changed the culture forever, and it says the greatest generation, and then not in a big kind of graffiti type thing.
Oh, ours says it's just a question mark, but yours says not. So they've made a decision in yours, whereas mine they leave it open. All right, let's look at some comments. Pradnya says Mark Kelly should be Secretary of Defense. I endorse that, and it should be the Department of Defense, not the Department of War. One of the silliest things that has happened in a very silly year and scary year and terrible year is FIFA creating and giving the President of the United States a FIFA Peace Prize to a man who took his Department of Defense and relabeled it the Department of War. Man who's killing people in Venezuela, all kinds of problems. But that itself is so ridiculous. Doug says, go ahead. Oh, Doug says,
go ahead.
That's a hostess cake, not a ding dong. Okay, thank you for that. And Jonathan saying, what's stopping other countries from applying such rules in retaliation? Correct, that's what we're talking about. FIFA kisses up to Trump with a peace prize. And by the way, FIFA rules say that FIFA should not get involved in political partisanship with any leader. So here they're breaking their own rules. Infantino has been a problematic character, but because he succeeded a really awful guy who ran the organization for decades, Sepp Blatter, he was given a lot of leeway, and now he's approaching Blatter levels of problems, including corruption and whitewashing, sports washing, all kinds of things that he's been doing. So it's not good. Let's see some other quick comments that have come in. Doug Levy says several others in the video were former active military, but only Senator Kelly retired with a rank, making him eligible to be recalled to active duty. That's why he's targeted. He's also fearless and not backing down. Thank you. And this is why we learn together on this show. Sujana says you should have Durga, my daughter, and her daughter, Sarika, as a guest host when you finally do the Style magazine. I love that. That'll be great. Pradnya says Gen X forever. And yes, Gen X rules. And Pradnya says she was a latchkey kid. And Dan says, great to be back. Yes, I'm delighted to be back and cover the news. All right, let's keep going.
And a quick shout out to Kate Stalter. I don't recognize the name. Might be a first-time, long-time viewer, first-time commenter. If that's the case, Kate, thank you for joining us.
And please tag your friends. Share this with your friends and family. They can join us live or later on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Digimentors.group. By the way, we should have said we have a very exciting cookie themed item that's coming up that we will tell you about in just a moment.
Yes.
Arts and Leisure covers, can you believe the documentary you're watching? There was a time, Neil, as you know, the documentaries had a strong point of view, but often were believable and were kind of high-quality journalism, hallmarks of high-quality journalism. Now, AI-generated tools can undermine the trust between viewer and filmmaker and rewrite history. So that's something that we have to worry about. Cooking, we're going to come back to cooking in just a minute. It's all about cookies and cooking. Are e-bikes out of control? This is an issue in cities where pedestrians and cars are being hit by e-bikes. Often, so it's kind of, it used to be, I think, a more of a cultural class issue, because e-bikes were driven almost exclusively by messengers and delivery guys. But now, especially in New York City, where we have e-bikes for city bikes, the bike sharing service, suddenly you have white collar folks also on these e-bikes. They don't look exactly like this, but can do the same damage and have some of the same issues. So I'm looking forward to reading this story and understanding what's going on with that. And then the book review cover is 100 notable books of 2025 plus holiday books. And real estate cover is decor that's as subtle as it's festive. The interior designer Sean Henderson takes an approach to holiday decorating, something. And then the Metropolitan cover is a traumatic past resurfaces as art. Cornelia Foss fled the Nazis as a child. Her new works draw on that experience and all the ways it's harder to avoid a subway fare. They are making evasion harder by putting in all kinds of glass and other barriers between you, the turnstile, and the entrance. So that's something new that's happening in New York. Neil, you've probably not seen that yet. And it's not in this photograph. So, okay, you tell us all about the cookie section, please.
Absolutely. The cookie section, it's the annual holiday cookies special. It's a Pano 8. So Sree, if you open up I don't know how you're going to do it with one hand, but it's a Pano 8 gatefold, and you have 4 pages on each side. It's double-sided.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
And,
all right.
and you'll have to step back to be able to see the whole thing open.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so let's do it like this.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is, stepping back.
There we go. So it's actually, so you have the 2 cookies, but if you open up, you have can you open it up more than that, or is it the back side that has the? No, it's the center. That's right. The vertical part is right there. So the back part. That's what I was looking for. Okay. That image is really cool. And so I want to give a little bit of an explanation from what we have from our friend Wayne Camadoy at the New York Times. If you look at the individual cookies and the way they were laid out for the photography, rather than just one wide photo, they gave each cookie its own quadrant based on its inspiration. So if you look at the mint chocolate chip cookies, a little to the left, the other side, if you go, there we go, right there in the corner. Mint chocolate chip cookies.
We should just also, now that we have a podcast audience, we should be more descriptive of what we're showing them.
Absolutely. So we're looking at
laid out on the paper the entire, it's what Neil called it,
Pano 8.
Pano 8, so 8 pages, 4 and 4. And now he's showing us what looks like pieces of pie, but they're actually cookies inserted into cones. Yeah.
It's the mint chocolate chip cookies are the photography, the stylist put them with ice cream cones to evoke mint chocolate chip ice cream. If you look at the mortadella cookies, which are on the right, just right there, it looks like a charcuterie board with a knife. It looks like little pieces of salami, but those are actually cookies, which is really interesting.
It says better than bologna.
And even if you look at, that's like a cocktail. There's it's the dark and stormy cookies in a cocktail tumbler. These are coffee inspired cookies with a coffee mug in the image. So it's really, really interesting. And of course, the PDF is available on our website if folks are interested in downloading that and taking a look. You can find that if you go to digimentors.group NYT read along, and that will be available whenever you see the show. We don't need to take it down. We appreciate all of the support we get from our friends at the Times. And I do want to give a quick shout out to Rachel Vanny, who is the photographer, Samantha, Samantha is the food stylist. Not sure about the last name. My apologies, Samantha. The prop stylist, Megan Hedgepeth. Kim Guggenheim was the photo editor. And the art directors were Mary Jane Callister, who's been on the show, and Wayne Camadoy as well. Just great job with the holiday cookies.
Not a good thing for people like me who are intermittent fasting. So looking at this early morning, but what a fun project. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to do this, just go to digimentors.group, look for the read along, look for today's episode. Even now you can find it. You can just go there, download the PDF. It's not available anywhere else. So you're getting this even though you're not subscribing to it. Get it as a PDF. These make for great projects around the house with your family and friends, and also obviously with kids. So please check that out. It's the cooking section. It's called Surprising Sweets. These 7 clever cookies are more than they appear. So definitely check that out. Let's go back to the front page, Neil.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see what else is on the news. We talked about the boat strikes in Venezuela. Look at those boats, Neil. They're not going to reach anywhere near the United States. They're such tiny boats, and we're targeting them and killing people. City in Illinois becomes hub for abortions in driving distance of 10 states with bans. So I guess people are going there for abortion. Big story about not Bin Laden, but Biden losing bets on immigration, not heeding warnings, and giving Trump an opening. That's certainly what happened. Saudi Arabia sells you booze if you're allowed in the store. So in several Middle Eastern countries, you can shop for pork products and you can shop for alcohol if you have permission to be there. He sued Disney for Zootopia, and he thinks Viper is he thinks Viper in 2 is him. This is about somebody suing. Have you seen Zootopia 1 or 2 with your daughter?
I probably saw Zootopia 1, but it was years ago.
I hear this is really good, and I don't know what the backstory here is. The hunt for an ocean tipping point. Scientists fear warming is driving a collapse in the currents that shape climate. The waters of Greenland might be a key. All right, let's keep going. How to Live to Be 100 by Dick Van Dyke. He's one of the people I used to watch on TV a lot, and here he is, and giving tips. What does he say? Stay active. He commits to being playful. He says yes. He maintains his connections. That's how you live to 100. Surviving the Hong Kong fire, but suddenly homeless. At least to U.S. Embassy, Afrikaners now are VIPs.
Yeah.
And this you had said that earlier. Let's see. In a dusty hamlet moonlighting as Hollywood, climate threats are never far away. This is a town in Brazil that's tucked deep within Brazil's dusky northeastern outback, and it's used as a substitute for many cities around the world. Here's a striking ad for Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's means good days and bad days. We've been fighting the disease for 30 years because of how much the good days matter. I think it's a very catchy ad. Germany's defense minister faces a new threat and the weight of history. Let's see. Neil, are you going to be trying to watch the World Cup?
I'll probably tune in every now and then. Not a huge soccer fan, but I'll certainly pay attention as it gets closer to the finals.
All right. Venezuela's Nobel winner to risk a trip to Norway. Collecting the Peace Prize may make her a fugitive in her country. Yeah. And the event is on December 10th. China issues warning to foreign journalists. Saudi Arabia sells booze. We saw that story already. Israel's plan to back Gaza militias proves perilous. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah, it was perilous for that individual. They were picking sides and trying to support, kind of counterweight to Hamas, but that other militia was attacked and I believe the leader was killed because of that support from Israel.
We just mentioned Saudi Arabia, and Ron Thomas, our good friend who's based in Dubai, is today in Riyadh and watching from there. Thank you so much. Pradnya says, cookies, Girl Scout cookie season is almost here. And I know it makes, it's so much fun to get those cookies. One of the things, Neil, I like is that they now allow you to donate the cookies.
Yes.
So that you're just donating the cash, and the the Girl Scouts still get the money, and then we don't get the calories if we don't want them. So that's
I know
good.
Pradnya's daughter and Emily have both benefited from Sunday New York Times read along customers. So thank you on both their behalfs.
All right. When the season's here, let's figure out a way to promote anybody who wants their kids on here. We'd be happy to promote them. All right.
It's a little bit, what's interesting is that each troop has like a different window from when they're selling.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's kind of a rolling process. I'm not sure. I think Pradnya's daughter's troop is maybe earlier than Emily or later. I'm not quite sure exactly. I think they're off by a couple weeks.
Sujana says very fancy video work. Yeah, thank you. And Raja is watching from LinkedIn, and Neil's showing us how to get that the PDF. You can go to this URL. Otherwise, you can go to digimentors.group and look for the New York Times read along. And
if you pull the cookies back on the screen, there's several comments related to that. If you pull the cookies, do you have the cookies thing still out, Sree?
Yeah, somewhere here.
Can you show that? There we go.
Okay.
Because
Ron is saying that every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Neil.
I was going to run through them real quick. His mother baked every day. Stefan was joining us late, but he found he could smell what we were cooking this morning with the New York Times food section. So he's here now. Good morning to all. Let's see.
Thank you, Stefan. We mentioned you earlier with our wonderful live reading from the New York, the Museum of the City of New York. 2020.
Now, I apologize. I think I do see there's a little bit of a glitch when we hit the comment. It does change the layout, but I'll keep pushing it back. Mary C. Curtis is saying a great antidote to politics, cooking, and baking, and I'm here for it. There are almond flour chocolate chip cookies in my kitchen as we speak.
Ooh, I'd like some, please.
And then Walter said, remind me to give more cookies for the holidays. So
we love that. And everyone, please get your own free PDF. Send it to your friends at your kids' school, your family circles. Put it on WhatsApp. Get it out there. And you can find it on New York Times, on digimentors.group/NYT read along. You can find it there. Education Secretary.
Sorry, Sree, while Walter is there, I wanted to give a shout out to the Graphic History of Hip Hop. The Graphic History Company joined us as a sponsor in this new reboot of the New York Times read along. So I want to encourage you to sign up for updates at graphichistorycompany.com. They'll be releasing volume 2 in the new year. So definitely want to make sure you get that.
Oh, that'll be great. By the way, I just got a Washington Post headline, news alert that said the mother of Caroline Leavitt's nephew rejects the White House narrative of her ICE arrest. From a confinement in a remote detention center in Louisiana, Bruna Ferreira recounted all the ways she said she has tried to maintain a friendly relationship with, I guess, the White House. But even Caroline Leavitt's nephew's mother was not exempt from the brutal and unlawful ways in which ICE has been acting in
the
many
press
cases.
Secretary for the Trump administration.
Exactly.
Leavitt.
Exactly. Yesterday, former President Biden, defended supporting the rights of trans people. And let's see, it's football season here, both college football as well as the NFL final games of the NFL season are coming up. By the way, here's Tiffany and Company, which does the Super Bowl and maybe does the World Series. You might know the trophies, but it did take over from a local family in DC that did the Kennedy Center Honors trophies, and now they're being made by Tiffany. And I think that's tonight with Trump himself hosting the show. That's happening tonight. So it's interesting how all of this is connected, and all of it comes back to our 45th and 47th president. Let's see what's in the magazine. We have about 20 minutes left, so this is a good time to remind everyone that if you have questions, comments, please jump in, post them here. We'd love to respond to you. And if you have friends and family who would enjoy watching this or listening to this, tag them and they can join us later. And just in the last few weeks, we're now on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts with the read along. So make sure you look for us there, and you can catch us and catch the show. All right, the New York Times Magazine, are e-bikes out of control? Let's see here. Neil, as the year ends, they put in a lot of effort in fancy advertising for gifts and jewelry and stuff. So the number of ad pages goes up dramatically.
And again, that's a sign of the New York Times being a successful publication where advertisers still want to put money into the New York Times. It's not a failing newspaper.
A graphic 2008 documentary about battles in Iraq has found a new life. Can it possibly be anti-war? By Jasper Craven is the opening here. A comment on that, Neil, that we've been doing the show mainly about the New York Times, but we've done the Washington Post, we've done the Toronto Globe and Mail, all kinds of publications, the Khaleej Times out of Dubai. We do the New York Times because we both subscribe to it, so it's just easy for us to do. But the point of our show is that reporting matters. Quality matters. Fighting disinformation matters. And you can do that by supporting your local newspaper. You don't need to pay for the New York Times. You can pay for a local paper, if there are any, still where you live. Hundreds of American newspapers have shut down in the last 20 years. Hundreds, maybe even thousands. And that's something that is so unacceptable, but alas, a reality for our lives today.
We support local journalism. Print journalism if you can, but journalism in general is the way I would put it.
Simon Cowell is sorry, softer, and grieving Liam Payne. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is, but I presume that's a famous musician. I mean, I know who Simon is. Sorry, I meant I don't know who Liam Payne is. As someone who can correct us, please jump in. That's why this podcast and the show is different from almost anything else you hear, because on podcasts, people speak and you can't speak back. Here, you can type in on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram, and you can write back. And Neil, you're keeping an eye on the Instagram too, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, I looked up Liam Payne as a singer-songwriter that with One Direction.
Okay. Ron says, do you think the New York Times will go fully digital? AJC just closed its print edition. And so that's a very good point, Ron. We should talk about newspapers that have closed completely, newspapers that have closed print and gone digital, and newspapers that are doing both. I believe the New York Times will keep going until there are still Gen Xers mostly and baby boomers still around to read print, because the advertising still matters. You can see these ads are super expensive, and there are people who like the print experience. Once those people go away, then they will go all digital. This will get smaller, will get thinner and thinner with fewer sections, but they will be around. Someone had predicted this back in the early 2000s as being 2025. Well, 2025 has basically come and gone, and there are still newspapers around the world. So we still have a ways to go, but this is not an expanding business. This is not a business. The New York Times was aiming for something like 20 million subscribers. I forget the exact number, and they are close to their goals because millions of people subscribe, not for all of this, Neil, but they subscribe for cooking, for games, for The Athletic, for Wirecutter. But you add it all up, and there are tens of millions of subscribers. You might have the numbers.
I don't have the numbers, but I do want to give a shout out. Ron mentioned the AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They are suspending their print publication. They're still staying in business, but we've actually interviewed Ernie Suggs, who is a columnist with the AJC. And through my work with the John and Lily and Miles Lewis Foundation, I've worked closely with the AJC in terms of doing some media work and placing some op-eds. So it definitely hits close to home to have a paper of that size and that historical significance suspend its print publication. It's, there's a spin to it in terms of they are going to continue with the journalism and do more video work and do more online, but there's still something that we lose. We always talk about Sree in terms of looking at the newspaper, the serendipity of finding articles that you wouldn't necessarily find otherwise if you're just going online
Look at
if
this
you're
story.
just
We're
looking
at
at
an Afghan story about chickpeas, like Afghan chickpea recipe. Like, you're never
wouldn't
going to find that. Yeah.
you wouldn't see that. I mean, I know my own habits. I go to specific sections. I look at what's on the front page of the app, and then I look at specific sections I'm interested in. The Sunday read along, we flip through the paper and we land on articles that spark conversation, that spark interest. It's a whole different experience. So just want to give a little appreciation to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as they
Yeah.
change their production
Thank
mode.
thank you, AJC, for a great run, and I hope you'll still continue doing the journalism. Sujana says, as people who are passionate about real journalism, the press corps at the Pentagon, which is now TikTokers and Matt Gaetz, should be so hurtful. That's right. They said to the existing press corps that were traditional journalists, some of them having served there for decades, that they had to sign, among other things, a document that said that they can't publish anything without clearance from the government. That makes no sense. So almost everybody, including Fox News, to their credit, stepped away and now work outside the Pentagon. And a whole new generation of people, as Sujana said, have shown up inside the Pentagon and are living there, sucking up to Hegseth and everybody else. So that's definitely one of the things going on. Dr. Tachi is watching from Fort Lauderdale. Last January, I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Tachi on this show in Florida, in Miami, which was so much fun. Getting back to the 50 best stores I've heard of and bought from, Ben Silver and O'Connell's, as well as I've heard of Gorsuch and the Armory. So I'm totally disconnected from the world of shopping, clearly.
Getting back to the Pentagon, I heard a piece on NPR, an interview with Tom Bowman, their longtime Pentagon correspondent, and he was saying that he was at a reception with someone from the Chinese embassy, and he was describing the new rules. The new rules are that you cannot solicit information from anyone in the Pentagon as a reporter. You can't ask for information, ask for questions, which means reporters can't do their jobs. And he described this to someone who was with an attaché with the Chinese embassy, and their response was, "Oh, so it's like what we do in China." Just,
oh my God.
Just plain as day.
Yep. All right. If you're ever looking for like a positive AI story, here is Heads in the Cloud. AI has already transformed the university English course I teach, but not for the worse, says Carlo Rotella. So I am very eager to read this because you hear not many academics praising what AI can do on the liberal arts side. All his rowdy friends, why are so many pop stars desperate to win the hearts of country fans? Just ask Shabuzi. Okay, and I guess this is Shabuzi. It's all new to me.
You're not familiar?
No, are you? Well, you have an 11-year-old in the house, so maybe you are.
12.
12-year-old.
And I've heard of, but not familiar with.
Yeah. Doug is pointing out they can't solicit or report it. And Ron is saying USA is done. Everyone here in the Middle East says the same. Parents do not want their kids in the US. Well, if they remove OPT, which is just the immigration pipeline is typically you get the F1 visa for certain people, F1 visa as a student. You get the optional practical training to work for 1 or 2 years. Then you get an H-1B visa, and then you get a green card and citizenship. That's a long, perilous, not in a dangerous way, the way it is for people who are coming over the border, but long and you never know what's going to happen. And now they might stop each one of these or some of these, and that will crush the immigration pipeline. And some of the most famous people in the world went through that process, including Satya Nadella of Microsoft, Elon Musk, Sundar Pichai of Google. They all went through that process. And America has benefited from that process. And no one's saying that the H-1B system doesn't have problems. No system, no government program doesn't have problems. And there should be reform. But what they're doing is targeting international students, which is also going to affect, by the way, red states. Places like Florida have huge universities. Even Montana and Wyoming all have universities, and they will all suffer because international students make up 13, 15, 20% of the budget, many of them paying full freight to study there. And that's really sad. Mary C. Curtis says on Liam Payne, became a star in One Direction, a band Simon Cowell put together from one of his shows, became a soloist, had addiction struggles, died in 2024 after falling out of a hotel window in Argentina, was 31 years old. Thank you, Mary, for briefing us on that story, and obviously very serious and important.
I remember hearing about that. I didn't make that connect. I didn't remember the name. I knew the story of the former performer who had fell out. I just didn't make that connection to the name when we saw it.
And so that says many Indian students are not coming to the US to study. London and Australia are the top choices for a lot of folks. By the way, UK has not solved its own issues around opportunities for international students, so they're still going to have trouble. Canada has created a $1.7 billion program telling people who are losing their H-1Bs here to apply to move to Canada. So Canada recognizes the value of what we're talking about here.
But that's also interesting because, again, and I was in the car, I can't remember where I was going, but there was another story about students from Gaza who are waiting to go to Canada. They were waiting for their visa application to go through, and Canada apparently is actually taking a longer time to process these applications. So much so that they highlighted several students who are going for mechanical engineering, et cetera, who died in attacks in Gaza.
Oh my God!
While waiting for their application to come through. So it seems like it's a mess in a lot of countries.
Jonathan says Canada and Australia are likely to benefit from the visa changes, and I've seen those ads from Canada. Powerful. One thing I do want to point out that when you're talking about all of this, what President Trump or candidate Trump and everyone who supported him said is they're going to go after the worst of the worst. The killers, the rapists are going to be targeted. And they're going after American citizens have been taken off the street. Grandmothers, people who lived here for 40 years who've never committed a crime. The stats of ICE's own stats show something like 17% have a criminal record. So on what basis they prioritize this? Even people who don't like, illegal immigration, many of them have protested against this and are unhappy with the situation. We only have a few minutes left. I thought it would be important to see what are at least some of the top 100 notable books of 2025. Before we get to that, Neil, anything else you want to talk about?
I was just going to say, Sree, if you just move your mouth, open your mouth, I'll just do what you've said before. The cruelty is the point.
Yes.
The cruelty is the point.
And one of the best ways to prove that is that they've taken people who are waiting for their citizenship ceremonies. That means they've been vetted for maybe a decade or more. All they need to do is get their citizenship ceremony. They're canceling ceremonies across the country. And these have been, if your complaint is these people aren't vetted, they're vetted by your administration, and to pull them out, that is especially cruel. But as you said, the cruelty is the point, as you learned from Adam Server. I'm just looking for the list so that we can start to wrap up here. Do we have any promos or anything you want to talk about?
Sorry, I was coughing. You mentioned I was sick last weekend. I'm still coughing from then. But there's the list. You have your 100 notable books.
I'll just glance through this, Neil, when you talk about your the Shining Light on Shadows show coming up.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Sree. As folks know, we have a two-part series that we did before the Thanksgiving holidays. We did a show on perimenopause and mental health. And this was the first time we've had 3 guests on the show. Dr. Ellen Albertson from the National Menopause Foundation, Lisa Falcone, who works with a women's health center in Philadelphia, and Aisha Sultan, who's a columnist with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This Thursday, we're doing a follow-up show on postmenopause and mental health. Dr. Albertson will be joining us again from the National Menopause Foundation Tess Rondo, who is a small business owner, and then Candace Sanchez will speak about their experiences with postmenopause. It's the show, as folks know, Shining a Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Is a show that I've been hosting with Don Helmrich for about a year and a half now. We're going actually into, is it year 3 coming up in January? We've covered a range of different topics. I'm particularly proud of these 2 shows. I've learned a lot myself about menopause. Pradnya Haldapur helped put us in touch with the National Menopause Foundation. So thank you for that, Pradnya. I just don't want to say that one thing I learned, Sree, is was very familiar with the changes to a woman's body during pregnancy. And the note that they made was that the changes during perimenopause are just as profound as the changes during pregnancy. That's just something to leave you with. But join us. We'll be live 7:00 Eastern time on Thursday, December 11th. Hopefully you have a chance to watch. Thank you, Sree.
And that'll be on Neil's channels as well as Digimentors. The 100 notable books, so we'll end by just looking through some of them, plus holiday books. And let's see, they're broken it up by section, Neil. So fiction and poetry, the poetry section, there are 2 books, Night Watch by Kevin Young and Startlement by Adel Limon. Historical fiction, Buckeye by Patrick Ryan, The Hounding by Zenobi Purvis, and How to Dodge a Cannonball by Denard Dale. Actually, there are more of these. I can't go through everything, obviously. The Colony by Annika Norlin. The Director by Daniel Kellman. These are literary fiction books. I'm trying to see if there are any names I recognize. Romance by August Lake by Regina Black. Thrillers, Death Takes Me by Christina Rivera Garza. Let's see, horror, Angel. I didn't expect the New York Times would have a horror section, but it does. Fantasy, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Not familiar with most of these, I'm sorry to say. John and Paul, a tribute to John Lennon and Paul McCartney by Ian Leslie. Biographies and Memoirs, Awake by Jen Hatmaker. Baldwin. These are not names I know. Baldwin, I guess, if it's about, no, this is about James Baldwin, thank God, not about the other Baldwin brothers. Let's see, what else? Raising Hair, Current Events, Abundance by Ezra Klein, which got a lot of notice, and Derek Thompson. Apple in China. Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza by Peter Beinart. The Empire of AI by Karen Howell. There Is No Place for Us by Brian Goldstone. History, Science, Sports, Everyday Sunday by Ken Belson, who's been on our show. And Ken is a former student of mine at the New York Times. And Everyday Sunday is his book. And, they've also divided it like this, so you can look at it, I guess, in alphabetical order. And then you can say, I've read it, I want to read it. This is a thing they're doing across the Times in movies and other things where you can kind of mark it and then even vote for it in certain ways. So, and look at this, all the Roald Dahl books in a big ad right here in the New York Times. Just before we go, I want to remind everyone that one of the things I do is write a newsletter, which let me just pull it up here so you can see it. The newsletter is called Sree Sunday Note, and it appears mostly on Sundays, not every Sunday, but it is out this Sunday. So let me just put it on screen here so you can see it. And this Sunday's topic is a guest essay by a former guest on this, or twice guest on the show. We went to his house, Neil, Steve Herman, to interview him on the read along. And he was the New York Times, he was the Voice of America White House correspondent.
Yeah, no, it was incredible.
Yeah, and so what Steve Herman saw as Trump and company killed the VOA. So please read that. And then last week I wrote about the most sweeping changes to U.S. immigration policy are coming. And I said, first they came for the Afghans. Will you speak out? Then they came for the Somalis, who are mostly U.S. citizens. Will you speak out? And here's one fun thing that we did in India. You know, Neil, whenever I go to India, people always ask me to do talks around subjects like AI and social media and things like that. But what you're looking at, Neil, is multiple people want to talk about one topic. Can you guess what that is?
Trump.
More than Trump.
More than
Zoran
Trump.
Mamdani. They want to
Mamdani.
talk about Mamdani. And so this is me and my dad did a talk at a major policy think tank called Perspectives on New York Mayoral Elections. And this is me and him on his TV show. And these are I went on a flight, and two politicians from opposing parties in Kerala who only wanted to talk about Zoran Mamdani. So that was kind of a surprise.
You have an endorsement on your newsletter, Sree. My mom says your newsletter on Mamdani was very good.
Thank you so much.
So
appreciate it.
Pass that along.
Yeah. So,
And,
folks, that's our hour. We're very grateful to everyone for participating, for being with us, for asking us questions. Ron says, let's catch up when I'm back in New York City. I'll let you know. We'll send you a note offline. Please. Thank you, Ron. Looking forward to seeing you. I was in Dubai. You were not there. And then I missed you here. So looking forward to seeing all of you. We do this most Sundays, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for an hour. And then you can find us on our on recordings on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We're also on YouTube Shorts and also on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts. And Neil has a great show coming up on Thursday. Please watch his Shining Light on Shadows about important developments about mental health and women's health and why they matter to all of us. Doug says, great show. Thank you, Neil and Sree. Jonathan said, great show. Doug said, thank you. And Sujana gives us a round of applause. So I think with that, we'll say bye-bye.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.